and welcome to Manny's Makings. Today we're going to do a viewer request video, and this is how to do square stitch in the round to make yourself a wonderful, basically like a piece of material. And you can make this as large as you like. So if you want to make, put it on the front of a purse, you can make it quite large, and you can make it whatever colors you like. You can see this is one color, another color. So we're going to learn how to make this part of it. So this is going to be a 3-part series. This part is going to teach you how to make the actual beaded piece. Okay, so you're going to need to watch this and make one of these so that you can then turn it into a pendant or turn it into a barrette for your hair. So yeah. So those are what we're going to do with these pieces, not these necessarily in particular. So let me show you what it looks like when it's made into a pendant. So here's a smaller version of the same thing. We just started it smaller and only went right straight to there and nothing further. And I put it on some wire so that it's good and sturdy, and it can be hung on a piece of leather cording or some chain attached to it, and it has a fringe on the bottom. And this is one that's just a slight bit bigger, and this is with black and white beads. So with a fringe on the bottom, which is kind of fun. And so this gives you an example. You could do so many different things with this. You could make 2 of these, put them together, sew them together and stuff them in the center, and you'd have like a wonderful hanging ornament. If you did them in sort of clear beads, except for the little stained glass pieces here, you could turn them into sun catchers and put the wire around the outside of them like this, just turn them into a giant sun catcher. You could, this is a piece of material, this could be used to hang something else from, or just do a whole bunch of fringe on the bottom of this and use this over top of beaded cord of some sort. I'm thinking of peyote with a twist. Wonderful little fun thing that you could use, that you could go over a cord, and then you could have the fringe hanging down, and it would add a little decorative piece on the front. The smaller versions can be made into rings, and smaller versions can also be used as centerpieces, and then you do a brick stitch strap on the outsides of them to turn them into bracelets. So as you can see, this is one of those projects that the possibilities are absolutely endless of the color combinations and what you do, but this is a traditional bead weaving technique, and I know that you guys wanted to learn more. So if you like these kind of videos and you want to see more in the future, make sure you like, share, or subscribe. Definitely subscribe, and give it a thumbs up. That would be awesome. And just a reminder, in case you haven't watched a ton of my videos and you're new, first of all, welcome. I appreciate you coming and checking out my videos. If you're new, and if you're returning, thanks for being loyal. Really appreciate it. But you can always find a full list of materials that I use in any given video underneath the video under the Show More button. That's where I post them all, so you can find them easily. You don't have to go find some other blog somewhere else. It makes it nice and easy for you. So we're going to start with this piece first, and then I'm going to show you in video 2, which will be out on Friday. So today is the 15th of August, so of 2018. So on the 17th of August 2018, I'm going to show you how to do this outside wire and how to wire on this actual piece. So it's a 2-sided pendant, and then how to make the fringe for the piece. So that'll be your video that's out on Friday, and the following Wednesday on the 22nd, I will show you how to put this on leather, how to do a little bit of probably some kind of decorative stitch around the outside, and turn this into a sort of more traditional rosette piece that you could be used as a hair piece, as a barrette in your hair. So that would be, tie your hair back, put it over your ponytail. You could actually attach this to elastic too and use it over top of a ponytail as well. So anyways, I'm going to get my materials out. So today I'm going to show you this version here, and it's just done with red, white, and blue, and I thought it was fun for some of my American friends. And this is actually a cobalt blue, which is actually quite dark. It looks like it's like a paisley, not a paisley blue, Delft blue or something, but this is a navy blue matte Toho round seed bead. And then I have ruby silverline Toho and another one which is crystal silverline Toho. So I have 3 Tohos. Now the thing is with this is that, just give you some background information, is that you can use any size bead you'd like, realistically. You can use 15 O's if you want. You can use, these are 11 O's, you can use 10 O's, you can use 8 O's, so those are getting progressively bigger. So you can make these, if you use 15 O's, they'd be really tiny, and if you as you go up, they're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So you can have some fun with that. The one condition of the size of the beads you use is that you have to use the same size bead to get this particular formula to work every time. So you end up with a nice flat piece of material that doesn't buckle or curve in, or do one of these where it puffs up. If you want to make it do that, that's great, but most people don't. Well, at least for the purposes I'm going to use it for, I wouldn't want it to do that. So to make it flat, there's a formula. I'm going to teach you that formula, how to figure that out, how to make, this particular design. This is just an adaptation without the white over the outside. I'm going to explain all that as you see in the video. Your beads all have to be the same. So that was what I was trying to tell you. So if you have a Toho regular and a Toho round and a delicate, and you want to use those 3 together, they're not going to work. They have to be the same size beads. So let me just show you 2 beads here. I put the white ones away, so I'll pull those back out. Okay. So when I look at these 2 beads on my needle and I compare them, see if I can get them to come in. There we go. So when I look at these 2 beads on my needle, they're pretty similar in size. They're a slight bit different, but they're close enough. And they're both cylinder shaped. They're not really rounded, okay? If I had a really rounded bead, and I had some beautiful red beads that were really rounded, they're the round Tohos. Those were slightly smaller and they're a slightly different shape. When you're doing this project, you want to pick the same. You can use all delicates. You can use all Tohos, regular Tohos rounds. You can use Mayukis, all round. My Mayukis are always round, so you can use those as long as you do the same size beads. That's what your big concern is that you need to do the same size beads and always the same size beads. Because you'll start to get puckering and problems if your beads are not really close in size. And the other thing is you need good beads. So those dollar store beads or beads you picked up at Walmart or even Michael's and Hobby Lobby if you live in the United States, those beads can be a problem because they need to be really similar in size all the way through. As you can see, these are all really similar in size all the way through. And that's important, otherwise you're going to get buckling and or waffling on the edges where it looks like it's all ruffled. To get this beautiful flat piece, you need nice beads. So that's just my heads up so that you know ahead of time. All right, so I will get all set up and ready to go, and we will continue with this, and you'll see part 1, which is the making of this, so you can see how the formula works and how each row works in progression. I show you all the way through this whole piece, and then we'll come back on Friday and we'll show you the next one. So take care, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, I'm back and I have my thread on my needle, and I've doubled it up almost all the way to help me with my thread management. And I've given it a little stretch. I show to give a little stretch to take out the super curly Q from being on the bobbin. And we're going to get started. So my first row, we're going to pick up 8 beads. So whatever color you want to be the background color is the color you would pick up first. So let's see. Do I want? No. Let's pick up the blue beads as the background. Okay, so I need to pick up 8 beads. And if you spread your beads on your mat, especially if you have visual issues, I don't know if you can see this, but there's some of them that are, you can actually see the hole, the green hole there. So let's see if I can zoom in and not have my focus go crazy. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, and I'm bringing this up because a lot of the people who watch my channel are not young. So they've had some life under their belt, and visual issues can be a problem sometimes. And yes, I use a magnifying glass, which helps me greatly because I have some visual impairments and I can't see in front of my nose despite my face. But I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little white or lighter speck in the middle of that bead because that bead's laying with the hole up. So if I take my needle and put it in that little white hole, it makes it easier to pick up the beads. So I'm aiming for the little white holes, and I can see the holes that way. It just makes it easier to see. Okay, so I have, let's see how many I've got here, 4, 8. So your first round is 8 stitches. So you're going to take the 8 stitches and you're going to take them down. I'm just pulling, whoops, banging into everything as I'm spreading my arms out. I'm pulling it down to where my thread's only single and I have a little bit of tail left. I'm going to leave enough tail that I can put a center bead in later. You don't have to put a center bead in this. It's quite fine not to. Okay, so I'm going to take it, if I get the beads to come down, and I'm just going to tie a double knot. So just pulling the thread through, tying a knot, and I tend to do a surgeon's knot with the second one. So I go through once, and I go through a second time. And that just keeps it from slipping a little bit, especially with this particular thread. It's a little slick, it's a little slippery, so I wanted to make sure it stays. And this little end tail I'm going to use to put a center bead on, and I'm also going to use it to reinforce my center. But I am going to reinforce my center once right now. And the reason being is because when you're doing this kind of thing, you're going to be pulling on these outer edges and it's going to pull the center. And if your center is not secure enough, you will undo your knot or you will have problems where your center will fall apart. So my thread's here. So I'm just going to go back up through the beads, through all these beads one time. So I'm just going around through the beads. No significant hoopla there. Pretty easy, right? Okay. So how this pattern works is that each round you have to add 8 beads. So it's just pretty simple when you only have 8 beads to add 8 more beads, right? So I'm going to go past the knot. So don't want to start right where the knot is. And if you got your knot caught in there, you just pull the opposite direction so you can get your knot out. There we go. Couple past, there we go. It's okay. All right, so I have my 8 little beads that sort of makes a sort of a circle to start with. And this is pretty tiny and pretty fiddly with the 11 O's. And as I said, you can do this with 8 O's. Just make sure your beads are consistently sized between each of the colors. And you can do this with no other colors. You could just do it round. So if you wanted to do a backside of something plain, you could just do a plain one. So I'm going to flip this, and the reason I'm going to do this is because I want my needle to come towards me first and then go away from me. So that's the basic rule. So I'm going to go around this bead here. Okay, so I'm going to go around this bead here. See if I can keep it up here so you can see it. So I'm going to go around this bead here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 2, and I'm going to come towards myself through the one bead. And I'm trying to hold it to the camera so I actually can't see what I'm doing. I'm actually holding this at my nose height so that it's in the camera. Okay, so I go towards myself, and then I take my thread and just sort of hold onto it there, and then I want to go away from myself. So I'm going to put it through this bead and through this bead, and I'm going to go away from myself. Okay, so I'm holding that little 8 beads in my finger right here, and I've just done 2 beads on that one bead. Okay, and then I can spin it just ever so slightly. give it a little bit of a pull, and I'm going to do the same thing. So on each first row, I call this the first row, it's actually the second, I'm going to put 2 beads on each single bead. So I go to the next bead. Okay, I think I'm got a handle on the focus, but we'll find out. I'm trying different things because of the level of magnification. It makes it harder. So I went through this, whoops, I went through this bead last time, the other one in front of it with the 2. Now I'm going to go through this bead with the 2. So I'm going to come up through this bead, but just that bead. Okay. And I'm going to put, I have my 2 beads on the needle. And then I'm going to come back through the 2 beads I just put on. So I'm coming back through those 2 beads. And it's going to look all loosey-goosey. That's fine. I'm just going to pull in the direction that I'm going to be heading. Move my thing. I'm just going to move my tail out of the way a little bit too. So I'm just going to pull my tail down so it's out of the way. 2 more beads. Let's see if we can get this to focus for you. Okay. So now I have the 2 sets on. I'm going to put the 3rd set on. So I'm going to go to the next bead. And I can't see it from here. So there's the next bead. I'm actually using my camera to do my beading, which is kind of interesting. So the next 2 beads on, and they will do that. They will sit funny. I'm going to bring my thread up. That's where, in front of those 2 beads. And I'm going to put my needle back through those 2 beads and pull away from myself. Now you can do it the opposite way if you're much more comfortable with that, which is to flip it this way and go this way first, go this way first, that way first, and then come back towards yourself. Either way is good as long as you keep it consistent. Okay, so next 2 beads. Put it in the next bead. So I'm just working around these 8 beads in the center and putting on 2 more beads. So that's what I have so far. See, 2, 4, 6, 8 beads so far. I got 4 more beads to go. I'll come back when I'm done this part. Okay, so I'm putting my last 2 beads on. I've put them on, and now I'm going to go back through them. I'm going to go back through them, and I'm going to go back through the first bead that I put on this row, or the first couple of beads I put on this row. And I can't see, so give me a second. There we go. So I'm just going back through the first couple beads after this. So when I pull away from myself and I'm tightening it up, I have this little button, I guess you want to call it. So now I have 16 beads. Now I have to add 8 beads the next row. So we're going to take a second and do a little bit of math. Okay, so I have a white piece of paper and it was lined, so I'm going to explain this. So the first row is 8 beads. The second row is 16 beads. So my third row, I have to add 8 more. Okay, so this is how it goes as far as adding beads. Okay, so because I already have 16 beads on and I only need to add 8 to get to 24, and this is how I think of it, and maybe this will help you, so that's why I'm bringing it up. So this is every bead gets 1. Every bead gets 2. Sorry, every bead times 2. Then I have 1 times 2 and 1 times 1. So I have one bead that I double, one bead that I single, one bead that I double, one bead that I single, one bead that I double, one bead that I single. And then this one is one bead that I double, and one bead that I single, and one bead that I single. So I'm basically doing the amount of increases that I need to do to keep me going. So on the third row, it's every second one gets doubled. On the fourth row, so it's almost one behind. I don't know if that makes any sense. So on the third row, it's every second one, which is the one behind. On the fourth row, it's every third one that gets doubled, which is one behind. And on the fifth row, so if you're on the 20th row, it's one every 20, every 19. So, you know, depending on how many rows you do, and I wouldn't recommend you go 20 rows. This is a general rule. And the reason I'm going to say that is that for the first few rows, even if your beads are slightly uneven, you're going to be fine. Where you start running into trouble is when you're decreasing the patterning, which I'm going to show you when we get there, and if your beads are a little wonky and it starts to cup or it starts to do the opposite, you're going to need to add a little bit extra, and you need to figure out how to do that. So I hope this helps. It gives you an idea. So you just keep adding 8 beads each row. So if you develop a pattern in a circle that you want to do, you have to add 8 beads each row. Now there is things online that have patterns for rosettes that are like blanks that you can color in, and if I can find one, I will put it in the show notes below. And just remember, everything you need will always be included in the show notes below. I'm not going to do that chart. You can write that out for yourself. Yeah, you're all big people. So now the next one, I'm going to keep this a little bit farther back and hopefully the focus will stay better. Okay, so we're ready to do the first row, and for the third row, which is the one above, and this is when I do 2 beads, then 1 bead, 2 beads, then 1 bead. So we're going to start setting up our pattern now. So I'm going to put 2 beads on the first one. There's one there and one on my needle. So that's 2 beads on the first one. And I'm doing the same thing as I did before. So I have the 2 beads, I'm sticking my needle through the 2 beads on the way back. Again, this is square stitch and pull. And then I'm going to stick 1 bead. So let's do the white as the 1 bead. So I'm going to come back towards myself through the 1 bead and back. And I'm going to pull the whole thing out of my hand. So this is what I got so far. See, there's 2 of them are on this bead here. These first 2 are on this bead, and then this one is on this bead. So I'm going to do 2 again. And I'm going back. And this is a little labor intensive. It takes some time, but if you want to make something that looks really nice, this is how you do it. And don't even worry about what side your tail's on, that it's in the wrong place. I don't know if you've seen me fiddling a little bit. I stuck my thumbnail against those beads and pulled. I want that thread to be tight so the beads are snug up against each other. I don't want big gaps of thread like this. I'll show you. I don't want a big gap of thread like that. See how I can see the thread? I don't want that. So to get rid of it, if it doesn't want to go easily, I just put my thumb there and pull. I'm pulling straight up and on the thread. And now I need another white one. So it's 2 blue and 1 white, 2 blue and 1 white, 2 blue and 1 white. And I'll come back when I get around this row. Okay, so I'm back and I'm finishing up that last stitch. So I just got to go back through the white and I need to go through a couple more. Okay, so this is where you have to start using some brain power. And I went back all the way to the white. And the reason I went back to the white is because when you think about it, I have to increase 8 stitches and I have 8 little white beads, right? So I'm going to double up my white beads to start my bottom point of my star. And so that's going to make it easier for me to remember when I have to increase. So this one, I have 2 singles and then a double. So I got my 2 singles, so I have my blue. I could have started on my double on the white, but I want you to think about what you're going to be doing next to make as you're doing this. So there's a single, single, back through, and then I'm going to do my first double. And why do I have thread showing where I don't want it? There we go. And then I'm going to do my first double, which is my white double, and I'm going to go back through the 1 white, and I'm going to be adding 2 whites. So that's my first of my 8 that I'm going to need to add extra on this row. And as you can see, I do a lot of that where I hold my fingers right over. So then I do another single on the blue, another single on the next blue. Trying to make this as easy as possible for you guys. And then a double on the white. And I'm going to continue this around till I have the row done, and I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back and I'm ready to put my needle through the last 2 stitches and go through the next 2 stitches. So this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. I'm just going to come out the blue. So this is what I have so far. Now, on these versions that you see here, I actually only did 1 row in the center, and then I started the color on the 2nd row to make them as small as possible. And I did, instead of having all of them the same color on the outside, I did, you know, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. So I have 4 of each color. So when you're starting to think about what you can do with this, well, you could have a black background and have rainbow and have the 8 different colors of the rainbow going around, and you know, just make the point. I'll show you in the black and white. Just make these points each a different rainbow color with a black background. It will look awesome. So you know, you can be as creative as you like, and you can add things and subtract things, but I want you to learn the basics. All right, so now I have to add, because what I'm doing, I'm going to add a red bead. I need to add a red bead in the middle here. So how can I do that? So this is where you have to start to think. Okay, so I know that I need to do 1 increase and then 3 singles. So I'm on the 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be my 5th row. I need to have 40 stitches. So I need to do 1 double and 4 singles. So the easiest way to get another color in here is to do a double and then a single, right? So I'm going to do my blues first because I'm on the blue one. So I'm going to do the blue one first. Oh, going the wrong way. See, I'm not doing the blue one first. I'm doing the white one. Do the white one first. You have to think. You have to have you can't disengage in this one. So for those of you who like easy disengaged stuff, this is not the project for you. So now I need to add the red to the middle. So the first bead on my needle is the first color in the line. So this would be the first color, and then this would be the second color. So that would add my red in the center. So I'm going to come back towards myself and then away from myself. So there's my 1 increase in where the white area is. And I started my little red piece. So I'll do 1 more just to help you out. So that there's a single. So this row I have 3 singles and a double. I'm thinking about the row back, which would be row number 4, which is 4 altogether. So I have 3 and a double. That's 4 things I need to do, right? And then another single in the white. And then I need the red and the white. It's actually not white, it's sort of silver lined. But it gives you sort of that sparkly bits. So there's two. So you can see how it's starting to come out. So I'm going to finish this row and then we'll talk about the next couple of rows because at this point you need to take it out as far as you like it to be. I usually like to get my red beads 3 beads wide before I start to decrease. So I'm going to continue this row and I will be back to explain the next row. All right. So I finished this row, and as you can see, I have 8 little red beads. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to double my red beads, just like I doubled my white beads on this row. So I'm going to double my red beads. So I'm thinking about where do I want the double to happen in 8 places. And sometimes it's nice and easy because you have another color. So you can double it there. So I'm going to double on my red ones. So I came out before the red one, so I could do this. So I'm going to start with my double. You don't have to start with your double. You can start wherever it works for you. And then I'm going to do a single white. If I can get it to go in the white. There we go. It's not that it's hard, it's just that I can't see without the magnifying error, and I don't have it on me when I'm doing my videos. So I'm doing a lot of this by feel. That means you can do it too. There's a single blue. Okay. Another single blue. Anybody counting? How many singles have I done so far? I did a double and a double. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to have 4 singles. So I'm on row 6. Cool, huh? Hope that makes sense to you. So another double because I'm at the red again. And again, I'm just going to go around until I finish this circle, and then I'm going to explain the next circle. Okay, so I just want to explain something. When you start to do rows, sometimes it feels like it's really tight, like there wouldn't be enough room for a bead because of the way that is, and that's fine. Don't worry about it. There's one more bead needed for this row as another white bead. So I'm just going to come above my work to grab that bead so that I can come around. And when I do that, I just need to make sure that that sort of sits in. So I'm just holding it so then it sits in and it pushes those 2 red beads together a little bit better. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. I'm coming out between the middle of the 2 red beads, and I'm going to do a 2 on the one and then 1 on the other red bead. So I'll show you. So 2 on this first red bead, and then I have another white bead. So these are all singles now. So as you can see, it takes a lot longer. And we'll talk about adding a thread while I'm working on some of this. So thread management can be a problem, and I may not even have enough thread because I gave myself an extra row in the center to go with just the 1 thread. So like any bead weaving project, when you start a new thread, you just need to work your beads back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and come out the same spot you were. I always add a new thread when I'm finished a row. So if I don't have enough thread to do another row, I stop and add new thread, work this one away and then add new thread and come out anywhere I want on the top because it doesn't really matter. And because you can work your way around to wherever you want to start. And I'm watching my tension. I'm also watching that it's not curling. So I'm laying it down on my mat and I'm checking to see that it's flat, that I'm happy with the piece of work. As you can see, it's not trying to buckle or curl up. The other thing with this square stitch is that you, if you show a thread, you can't go just pull back a little bit and tighten from behind. This is so thread intensive. It's so strong. Yeah. So you can't sort of go back and fix stuff. A couple of beads maybe, but that's it. So don't be sloppy in your work. Otherwise you're going to have sloppy looking work. So I did one there, and I'm going to do 2 on this bead, and that's going to give me my 3 beads wide that I want before my next row, which I'm going to start decreasing. Woo! So we're still working our way out on those little points, and then we're going to work our way back in. So white, 1 on the blue. So the 8 places I'm putting on a second bead are on the first bead of each of these red beaded sections. So I added 2 here, 2 here. I'm going to add 2 on this one, 2 on that one. Okay, so I'm going to work my way around, and when I get done, I'll be back. Okay, so I finished this row and we're ready for the next row, and this is what it's looking like at the present. It's kind of cool, and I'm probably going to have to add thread, so when I do I'll show you just in case. But this is what we're at right now. So now we're ready for the decrease. This is the hard part. So I brought my needle through a few beads, nothing spectacular. And the reason I brought it to here is because my first bead I'm going to be adding is my blue one, and then it'll give me a second to sort of catch up to show you where we need to go. So I'm going to add my blue one. So again, this is square stitching around to make a rosette. Two. Now, I need to take these 3 beads and make them 2 beads. And I need to widen this out and narrow this section down. So what I'm going to do is actually add 1 blue one on top of the white one. And you're going to go, oh no. But believe me, it looks great when it's done. And then I'm going to add 1 white one on top of the first red one. And then I'm going to do my increase. So I'm going to do 2 red because I'm going from 3 to 2. 2 red on top of my second red. Okay. And then I'm going to do another white. That feels funny, so I wasn't sure if I caught something weird. I didn't. It's fine. And then I'm going to do 4 blue across here. 1, 2, 3, and again I'm doing a blue on top of the white. And then I'm doing a white on top of the red. And then I'm doing 2 red on top of the red. So these are my 8 increases in the middle of the reds. Okay, so you can see it's starting to come down. Now, this is one way to bring it down, and this is another way. And I'm going to show you on this one. See if on this one, I did 2 rows here, and I only had the 1 row of the blue between each one instead of the 2 rows like in this case, because I started a row earlier. So I did my first row of 8, and then I did, you know, the white or the light blue, the background, the dark blue, the background, the light blue. So my double stitches that I was putting over top of each one of these middle center ones. So it changes things a little bit. So I only have 1 instead of 2 rows in between each. And I did the 1, and then I did the 2. So I did the increase on top of this stitch, and then I did the 2 and the 1. And then I did the same thing here, and I did my increase on that center border row so that I could have 2 rows of the 3 and then I went to the increase on top of that middle stitch to give the 2 there. So you can see there's the increase on top of that stitch. And then there's just 1 on each one of these, increase on top of that stitch. So you can see that you have to sort of think your way through this, and that's why I said this is not a beginner project by any means, because you have to actually think about where you want to increase and decrease. In this case, we're just going straight back down. So I'm back, and it's time for me to add some new thread. As you can see, I don't have much left. I have enough to weave in my ends, but to weave in the end and then get started on a new thread, but that's it. So I brought my needle along the edge without pulling too tight. If I pull too tight at this point, I can actually cup. See, I can cup it because I ran the needle right through the edge, which is not something you traditionally do. So I'm going to just work my way back down. So I have my thread coming out here, and I'm just going to come across this row of beads here. So the red there. And then I'm going to come back across. So I'm trying to, each row is decreasing so the threads sort of run along the decrease. And if you want to, I could go one more over here to the white and we could follow the white down, and that would make it easier for some of you who are. So I'm just going to go back and forth a couple of times in different directions. Let's go across those 2 there. And there's the one, and I'm just getting my needle into the other one. And there's the other one. Okay, so at this point, make sure it's laying flat, that you haven't pulled that too tight somehow or gotten weird. And I can see a thread here, and I don't know what it's from. I'll have to figure that out, what I did. Okay, anyways, life happens. Nobody's perfect. Actually, traditionally, one of the things we like to do is actually leave something that's not okay in our work to show a sign of humility that no one is perfect except for the Creator. So, all right, next thread, pretty simple. I'm going to throw it on the thing, and I'll come back and show you how to start it. Don't forget to stretch your thread when you're putting it on the new needle. So let's pick another place. Doesn't really matter where. We're going to start our thread. Now, because this is a nylon-based thread, any little thready ends that might show, 2 points, knock the ruler off the floor, off the table. I'm just going to hold on to the tail, and I'm going to go back and forth, just like I did last time. And I've got a lot of thread back on here, only because I'm going to do with this one, in this case, I'm actually going to do some fringing. So I might have enough thread to do the fringing, we'll see. So I'm just going up and down this row of white. And if you're worried about locking it in, you can go back a row. And then you can come back down a row. Back up a row, I mean. So now I've literally swung around those 2 beads twice. And then when I pull, if I pull, it's the tail's not moving any. Back up. And and we'll go back up one more time. And I'm going to move away from this red. So this is another thinking moment. So we need to decrease. So I need to make these 2 stitches 1. The best way to make it 1 is to actually just add 1 bead over those 2 stitches. Well, if I do that, that means I'm decreasing 1, which means I have to increase 1 more time on each little section. So I have 2 here and 1 here. So guess what? I can increase here and increase here, decrease here, and that still adds up to 1 increase extra. So let's go for it. I'm going to do the blue ones first. And I have a long thread again. Probably could double it up a little more than I have it doubled up, but let me just fix that. There we go. So there's blue. Come on, get in there. Blue. And as you start coming out, I don't know if you notice, my blue beads are just slightly smaller than my red and my white beads. My red and white beads are really close to the same size. So if I start to notice any puckering, I'm going to have to pay attention. And if I do, this is where I would add an extra bead or two on a round. And where I would do that, if I'm not doing any patterning here, would be in this section here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have my 4 blue beads. Now remember I said you had to do a couple of doubles. So I'm going to put a blue and a white on this one to bring that white in some. Oops, bring that white in some so that I'll just do it. I'll show you. So I'm going over the white here and I'm adding a blue and a white. And when I come back, see how it moves in the white over the red some more? See how it's sort of keeping up that angle? Because I've added 2 beads over the 1 bead. And now I can add the 1 bead over the 2 beads. So I'm going to take, I have 1 bead on my needle. I'm going to put it through the 2 beads on the top here. And I'm going to go through the 1 bead. I said decreasing is the hardest part. So now I have to make up for the decrease I did on this because I should have done 1, 1 like normal, right? And I didn't. So I need a white and a blue to get me the other side to increase. So I end up having 2 increases and 1 decrease, which overall leaves me with 1 increase. So barring the mess up on the thread, you can see that I now have the little peak piece. Okay, so I'm going to continue to do this all the way around. Again, it's regular across the blue. When I get to where I need to add white, which would be the white stitch, I added a blue and a white. So shove the white over just a bit. I added 1 red across the 2 red, which brought those together and gave this a better point. And then I did a double on this white stitch here. I did a double here, which was a white and then a blue. And when I come back out, it pushes it in towards the center. And when I'm done this row, you can really see how much more it sort of pulls that all in and makes it look beautiful. So, ta-da, there we go. So now we're ready for the next row. So the next row, I need to have 2 beads in this space. So this is where my increase would be. So that means I'm just going to start on the blue, make it easy for myself. And as you can see, you have a wider expanse of blue happening. The camera is not showing the true color, but this is like a dark cobalt blue. And the colors will be listed below. And please like, share, and subscribe if you like to see this kind of videos. And the only thing I don't think I'm going to try to teach is crow stitch. Only because it really requires hands-on. Now, I don't know if you saw that, but I just culled out a bead that was kind of too funky. So, I'll show you the bead. That was the funky bead. It's definitely not a bead I want to use. So, I'm just sort of watching my beads as I pick them up. So if I run into trouble, I can, and I'm just, that's my habit, is to pull down this way and pull up as I go. You're going to get into your own little rhythm, whatever works for you. Now, just so you know, you're going to see this video in a very shortened version. But to take my time and to do this and get into more complex patterns for sure, you're looking at about 2 hours just to make the beaded portion. It's not a fast project, and don't expect it to be. Okay, I'm just setting some realistic expectations. So I don't need any more red. I just need the white, the 2 white to go over here. So I'm going to put another blue on top of this white. So this is where I start to change things to bring it in. And then I'm going to put, for some reason my thread's not doubled up. There we go. And I'm actually not going to have enough thread to do my French. I'm going to have to add new thread for that anyways. So I'm going to just do the red with 2 of the beads on it. So there's my increase on this row. Remember, we have to increase every row. And then, and as I said, this takes a lot of thread. Just be patient. Now I did it again. I don't know if you saw that. See if I can go forward. Oh, got lucky. Okay, so I need to put that on the white. And that happens. Now we slow down a bit. If I slow down a bit to a nicer pace so that I could be paying attention to the transition-ish areas, it wouldn't be so bad. So these ones here where it's all singles, I don't have to think much until the color changes, and that's when I have to think more. So I have one more row to do after this. And you guessed it, it's another single over top of a double. There we go. Just making sure that's all laying nice. You can twist these, you can get these beads twisted like this, and then when you try to pull it in, it's won't lay right. If it's not laying right, that means there's something wrong with the thread. Stop, take a look, closer look, do whatever you need to do. So I've got something going on here again. What do I have going on here again? And I just split my thread. Okay. All right. So I'm going to fix this and keep going, but basically I'm going to put a blue one on this one. I'm going to put 2 silver on this one and a blue one on the silver one. And I'm going to keep going around. I don't know what I did. Something doesn't look right. See how there's a thread here? There's just this little tiny thread that's sort of caught in a funny place, and I don't know why. So I need to figure that out. And I will be back. So I'm back, and I finished that row where I was putting the 2 on, and I'm working on the row with the 1, but I wanted to show you how to do that row. So rather than coming back when I was finished that one piece, let's see if I can get this to focus better. Okay, so rather than coming back when I was starting that row, I thought I'd be working on it. So come up somewhere on the blue beads. I added a couple of red beads in the middle because it seemed like a really long stretch of blue and I needed a touch of color. Okay, so if you come up one, if you start this row, if your needle was coming up here and out before this first blue bead here, then you could do this. So you need a double blue bead. And the reason is just like with this row here where we did the double on the outside and then the single one here, we need to do a single one over these 2. So we need to have 2 increases and 1 decrease. So this is going to be our decrease. This is going to be increase and increase. So I'm going to put 2. I told you this wasn't for beginners. So I'm going to do 2. And then we're going to do 1. So I'm going to take the one white one and I'm going to bring it through the two white ones here. And it's going to feel like you're going backwards because this bead will look like it's coming out, like it's going to feel strange. And then you need to bring it up along the white beads and just go through the white bead. You don't want to cross over and on top of that blue bead. Tighten that up so it's nice and pretty. Two blue beads. So one increase on the blue bead is the increase. The other increase on the blue beads that we're doing on either side of this white is to allow us to decrease over the white and to single. Cool, huh? Okay, so we're ready to add the center bead. I've picked up my short tail. Could have left it a little longer. It's going to make life a little bit more difficult, but there's 8 beads in the center. So basically I'm coming out here and I want to come across to the 4th bead. So there's 4 beads on either side, and I'm going to come in one side of one of those, in the one side of that bead. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's that bead right there. Now I could have done this sooner, gotten the tail out of the way, but it doesn't really matter. So that gives me the bead laying right there. And then I'm going to come back through the bead, and I can see that the thread's coming out of this side of this bead here, so I'm going to go back in the other side of the bead. So I'm pushing that in the center. I'm going to go back in the other side of this bead, and I'm going to actually put it through the center, a couple of beads there. So that gives you a little red center. And I'm just going to work my way around until I can't do it anymore in the center beads, just to make sure they're good and secure. And then you are done for this part. So if you wanted to see part 3 or part 4, sorry, part 2 or part 3, definitely go check those other videos out so that you can move forward. Now, part 2 will be on Friday. This video is being released on Wednesday, and then there'll be another part on the following Wednesday, which will be part 3. So if you're wanting to make it into a pendant, then that's part 2. And if you're wanting to make it into a barrette for your hair, that is part 3. So check out those other videos so that you can turn this wonderful square stitch, basically piece of material, into something else if you like. Otherwise you can use it just the way that it is, and you end up with this beautiful square stitch piece that can be sewn onto blue jean shirt, or it's quite large. Let's see, it's this one is 2 inches, so it's 2 inches wide. So this one can be, be used for, it could be used for the bottom of a medicine bag, sewn onto a medicine bag. In a traditional sense, it can be sewn onto a medicine pouch or a pouch. It could be sewn onto regalia. This is, something that could be used in lots of different ways, but it also can go on a baseball hat if you want, for red, white, and blue. It could. It's a little big for a bracelet, so I wouldn't say you could use this size for a bracelet. But hey, you never know. Yeah, there's lots of possibilities of what you can do with it. You could back it with leather. You could make another one of these and have the two together and then stuff them and make them into an ornament. You could do whatever you'd like. So take care and keep on making from Annie's Makings, and definitely check out those other videos. And if you like these kind of videos, please like, share, and subscribe. And just a reminder, the full list of everything you're going to need is always below the video under the Show More button. Take care. Keep on making. Bye-bye.